Okay, so a lot of people have been asking me how I stabilize my performance gifs so that you can see the idle the whole time and they don't go out of screen and stuff, and also how I make so many. So yeah, this is the process that I use. There's kind of a lot of bullshit in it because I'm really lazy, and most of it's actions that I batch process and then walk away from my computer. And my cat just jumped on the floor, so if you hear me yelling at something, that's my cat. So I use this free studio thing. It's not really free. It costs 20 bucks, but you have like downloaders and stuff. I mean, I really could use Premiere to do this step, but it's faster to do this because I don't have to like worry about video codecs or anything. So, free MP4 video converter. Drag your TS file in. Convert it to either AVI or MP4. Doesn't really matter. Original quality. Just make sure original quality is checked. Just click convert. Let that happen. Take like 30 seconds or so. Okay, once it's done converting your video into either AVI or MP4, just click the little folder thing, and you'll have your video as an AVI. The interlacing of the TS file is not going to be deinterlaced. It's just going to like flatten each set of fields into one static image, but AVI Synth will be able to still deinterlace to 60 frames per second, and ignore that, that's just my screen recording. So, you're going to split your video, so open up Photoshop to do this. I am not using Premiere or After Effects because I am very lazy. And typically I'm either doing homework or studying or maybe watching dramas or anime or TV while doing this, so yeah. You're gonna go super big here. Like this means that like each thing is like 1 frame or 2 frames instead of like super fast. And you're just gonna slide this guy over until you get to your first close-up. Okay, I zoomed this in way too much. Yeah, just keep sliding until you get to your first close-up. And he's not really in focus here, so we're just gonna get rid of that part of it. He's getting up, and yeah, there he is. This could possibly be a GIF, so we're gonna just cut that there. And yep. And we're just gonna keep doing this for the whole video until you're at the end. It usually takes me about 15 to 20 to get through this part. This is probably the longest and most like thought intensive part of giving. So yeah, I'm gonna cut from here until there's anything else noticed. If you notice when you zoom in, still has the lines from the interlacing. So it's just, yeah, that's important. For a spot where like 3 of the members are visible, I'll like do it so that I have the first member alphabetically, second, and then third. And I'm gonna put it in the first member section, and then as I continue like with the last steps, I'll show you what I do with that. But yeah, that's how I use the same clip for multiple GIFs. Okay, so once you're done getting this ready, so like these are all the ones with Tani in them, these are all the ones with that one in them, so I'm gonna go for Tani first, of course, because C. Yeah, this is like, I'm gonna take the work area, and I'm just gonna scoot it over so that the only area of my video timeline that I can work on is the parts of the video with Tani in them. This way I can like export each member's individual video and resize all the GIFs for Tani at once, all of them for Dawon at once, Huyong at once, etc. depending on what group you're doing. SF9 takes me the longest time because there's always either 8 or 9 members on stage, so yeah. So I'm gonna just play through all of these. Oh, and before you play for them, go to your like your video timeline area, and you're gonna make sure loop playback is clicked so that once you play them, it rotates back to the front of your work area. This way that once this all plays, I will like rotate and it's all loaded into Photoshop's scratch drives, so it'll take less time to play the second time around and it'll play at full speed. Well, this kind of depends on how much RAM and how much scratch drive space you have allotted, but I have 16 gigs of RAM, so that's not a big deal for me. Like, if you don't, it's gonna take a lot of space on your scratch drive. It still takes up space on my scratch drives because Photoshop is a heavy program. I actually have Photoshop crash more than I have Flash crash. I'm doing way more intensive Flash things when I'm actually doing schoolwork. So, like, these two are super similar, so I'm not going to keep both of these. I'm just going to delete out the ones that I don't like until I only have 4 under him. And when you delete or resize these, because you're at the end of the timeline, it'll keep shrinking your work area. But if your work area gets some of the other members into it, just like condense your work area again, so it's only one member that you're working on at a time. That's the same gif again. I don't want 2 of the same thing. I don't want this because he's not very zoomed in. He's not like the same distance. I'm going to keep this one. So I have 4 now. And then I'm just going to like make them a little shorter. Because like this is about, like that's the shortest I'll ever make a GIF. That's about as long as I'll ever make a GIF. You can also like make them shorter once you get this resized in AVI Synth. Yeah, that's about good. So now I'm going to go to the menu on the timeline area and click render video. And I'm going to make sure that range is the work area. So it's only going to render the video that has Chani in it. And I'm going to make the name of him. And I'm going to just render it to the desktop. But I'm going to make a new subfolder. And the new subfolder is going to be Music Bank. Because this is Music Bank. And render. This is going to take a while. Usually takes like 30-45 seconds to a minute. Once it renders, just gonna move on to the next member. I'm gonna save 1 or 2 of his videos to use in the 9-piece set, and I'm gonna re-render those clips for the 9-piece set also. So I'm rendering all my clips at the same time, and I'm gonna start resizing at this time. So that's not good for the 9-piece. I'm gonna make him a center GIF. Go with this one for the center. Chani GIF in the 9-piece. I'm just going to slide him all the way down to the bottom so I don't think about him. Shit. I forgot something. Yeah, if there's one that has 2 members in it, just rename it to the other member before you delete it. Or else you don't have him anymore. So now we're going to work on that one. He's been the hardest to give this comeback. What is this of him? I'm just gonna move this guy to Jaden's section. Just do that so I know which videos I'm using. And then I'm gonna click render video. And this is now on. And make sure, I forgot to say this before, but so this section, you wanna do it as a MP4. And you wanna make sure it's progressive. Because when you converted your file to either AVI or MP4 in the beginning, it kind of flattened everything to static, like each is an image instead of fields, like it's frames instead of fields at this point. So you don't have to like worry about the interlacing right now. So yeah, click render. And then at this point, I'm gonna like go to my desktop and go to the Music Bank folder. And while that's rendering, I go to AVI Synth, and I start rendering, like, resizing the videos while that runs. So that way I'm not wasting time. So yeah, I don't use lossless, I'm using normal WebM. Yeah. And since it's the whole video you want, you're just gonna go to 0 seconds. So that'll run. Don't eat my wire, dude. I know you like wires because you're a kitten, but don't eat them. And then I'm just going to open up a new tab so that you don't see my stuff that I am doing on the side. And that'll run. And while that's running, and okay, it popped up faster than I expected, but so I do my gifs at 268 pixels by 375 pixels for 4 pieces. And I just kind of resize it all at once because I rendered it as one video. And sometimes that means my cropping's not the best, but it saves me like probably 30 to 45 minutes while doing this. So for live performance gifs from TS, you're going to use QTGMC 60 fast and double linear. And don't copy the crop dimensions. That's like the most important thing. So you're going to Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac, and then go up to the AVSP mod. And since this has been converted out of TS files, it doesn't have the codec or metadata or whatever the term is for a video. I think it's codec. So, like, it's not going to be able to read which field is which. So if you just do it by default, it's going to go bottom field first. So you have to tell it to assume top field first. And that way you don't get choppy video where the frames are out of order. And then just paste your stuff from here to there, close it, and hit yes. That's going to run. See, it pops down here. It's going to run for a few minutes. That one's video is already exported, rendered, so I'm just gonna go through this and delete some of them out until I get the one that I want to be him. So Young is next, and I'm gonna work on this while AVSP mod virtual dub is running, and yeah, that's at 53% now, so for now, I'm just gonna take that one in because I might use a hui. Yeah, that's Hui Young's video. I can't see his name. I'm so sorry. Yeah, you don't have to really do much at this point. It's just the same process over and over. And then once that, like the AVSP mod finishes and stuff, I go on to Dawon's while I am exporting Hui Young. Then I go on to Hui Young's resizing while I'm exporting Insung. If it's a different group, it's different members, but I think you get what I mean. I'm always resizing something in AVI Synth while I am processing something in Photoshop. So once your AVI Synth finishes processing, I'm just going to rename this so that, and yeah, I should not have opened that. Oops, hit the enter button an extra time. And then, yeah, so you're going to be going back and forth, delete the original video that you resized from. Sometimes it just pops up while you're doing something else, but that's okay. It's a little distracting, but it's still faster to do it like this than other ways. Yeah, a lot of this spot is just waiting for things to render and to like resize, so you can like do other things while doing this. It's kind of convenient because you can study and stuff while doing this. That's what I typically do. Realsies. Once you're done exporting all of those as videos, you're gonna start exporting the ones for your 9-piece set. So I have the ones that I'm keeping for the 9-piece here. There's 9 little member gifs. Well, there's still not gifs yet, but so since Rowan's not here, I have 2 of Taeyang, but it doesn't really matter. It's a different group. doesn't matter. So I'm gonna go in reverse number order. So yeah, I'm gonna just select the Music Bank folder because this is Music Bank, and I'm gonna create a new subfolder for 9-piece set. And yeah, it's the same process for this. You're just going for solo clips now, not multiple clips in one video. And yeah, you're gonna resize those all for AVI synth as well. What I typically do is once I export like the last one, I'll go to the second to last one and then delete it, so it automatically puts the work area like that without having to keep readjusting the work area. Yeah, once all the videos are resized, like you have your 9-piece individual clips here, you just plop them back in there, and all of your 4-piece 4-clip videos resized, plop them back in your Music Bank folder and close the AVI synth folder. I'm going to show you how I process the 9-piece ones. I closed the AVI file of the whole performance. So I'm just going to take these and slide them directly into Photoshop, and they'll each load as a new like PSD. And I'm just gonna, usually when I do that, like render the videos from Photoshop's video render, you get 2 duplicate, so it kind of like bounces, because yeah, so just kind of go along all of them, scoot in 2 or 3 frames. Then I save them to desktop. Since it's SF9, I'm just gonna do S1, S2, S3, etc. I don't keep my GIFs or PSD files after I make my GIFs. I just kind of upload them to Tumblr and then delete them because it's just a GIF. It doesn't really matter to me. Then I'm gonna convert the whole video group into a smart object. And this is a personal preference. I sharpen it using an unsharp mask. These are my settings. It's whatever the hell you want to do. Do this to all of them. I should really make an action to do this to all of them at once, but I just haven't yet. If you don't know how to make actions, if you just like Google how to make a Photoshop action, Adobe actually has like tutorials on their website of how to do that, so yeah. At this point I'm going to crop them all. I use an action to crop them all to 177 by 300 pixels, but like then for 3 of them that are going to be in the center, I then expanded to 178 because yeah, Tumblr's stupid. So instead of using the crop tool, I actually use Control-C or Command-Option-C to pull up the canvas size window and type in the commands. But I don't do this anymore. I've actually made an action under my crop actions here to do it all at once. So I'm just gonna go to File, Automate, Batch, the action folder that the action is in, and then play the crop action. Press OK. Now they're all cropped. They're definitely not positioned correctly, but they're all 177 pixels by 300. So this one I definitely want in the center. Just gonna move that up right away. Place some of them. This is that one, so I'm just gonna move him so that he's in frame for the most part. I'm gonna do is the center one, and this is the center one. Let's check that it's still recording. Now at this point, I'm gonna make sure the dudes stay in frame. So this is kind of confusing, and this is the tutorial that I wrote up, but it doesn't really work well as a picture tutorial because it's such a thing that's in motion. So I'm just gonna scoot him so he's in frame here, and see that he's going out a bit. He's going out a bunch of times. So you're gonna use the stopwatch tool and keep him so that he's like in frame from the beginning, and then that's where he starts moving out again. I'm just gonna adjust him this way a bit. Yay. Right after the action starts that he's doing. So you don't want to start your pan and zoom or transformations at the very beginning of the motion. You want it to slowly move in and then slowly move out. So you're going to go in a few frames from when the action starts and out a few frames from when the action starts. Motion, whatever. So now instead of moving out of frame, he stays in the frame. So I'm going to do that again to keep him in frame all the time. And if you want, I'm going to just show transform controls. So basically what Photoshop is doing is it tweens the thing moving, and if you make a new anchor point, like if you go here and then you go make a new anchor point by doing that, it doesn't move in between the two, but when you move, it moves back and forth. So I'm going to just pull him back into frame again. See, it makes a smooth motion that keeps him in frame. And you just keep doing this until he's in frame for the whole GIF now. And that's how I make such long GIFs with them not going out of frame, and then I just convert this to a smart object. I'm going to take that away because it's a little distracting for me. And I'm going to do it for all of them. So at this point I'm going to, now that they're all like done, I'm going to convert this to a frame animation. I made an action to do that, so you're going to make layers from frames, convert to timeline, and then make frames from layers. If you don't know how to do it, just look it up, because I made an action to do this, and I'm just gonna batch process it so that it runs it all at once. So once it starts one, it'll finish it, start the next one, until all 9 are done. Typically at this point, I'll just like walk away from my computer and do something else, because it takes like a couple minutes, or yeah. This is part of how I'm able to make so many GIFs, because I'm not really actively doing anything. I'm just kind of playing actions I already made and then walking away. Yeah, this will run. There's a cat sleeping under me right now. It's very cute, so yep. Then once that's done, you have to delete the first layer and the first frame, so I made an action to do that. It does it to all of them at once. This takes only a couple seconds to run and do to all the documents. Now, you're going to make sure your mouse tool is selected. Hold shift, go to the very end of your timeline, hold control or command if you're on a Mac, click, and you're at the top frame, hit save, and do it to all of the documents. At this point, you want to keep your GIFs like around 95 or fewer frames, or else they won't save below the Tumblr size limit, and they won't move on Tumblr. I don't like having any GIFs the same length, because then like it looks really awkward as a whole set. So I just try to make sure they're all slightly different length. At this point, I'm gonna color them. I typically find one that's a little like more neutral than the others to make coloring. So I go for a curves level first, like almost always, and I hit Alt or Option if you're on a Mac, and find the black point. So it kind of like takes like the Lightroom histogram and it puts it onto your image, directly onto it, and you can see what colors the shadows are by hitting Alt or Option, and then like you click where you want the darks to be, and then I find the white point, same process. I typically don't use the auto filters for the neutrals and the like white balance, because you find like a neutral point and you click, but it doesn't always turn out that good, so I don't do that. I always add contrast, and I almost always add a fill layer on multiply, in like a magenta-y color. Really desaturated, kind of like here-ish, here-ish, depending on like what color I want the gifs. Levels, bring the whites back, and color balance. It's just coloring to your preference at that point, but I found that that curves trick helps a lot. And I almost always, for a 9-piece set, add darken the blacks and brighten the whites with a selected color layer. So yeah, that's like the coloring that I'll do. Hold shift, select them all, control or command G to make them a group. Yeah, that's the difference between the two. Now at this point, I use a script that I downloaded to duplicate this group onto all the layers. So I'm just gonna go to this PC, Windows C, Program Files, Adobe Photoshop, Presets, Scripts, duplicate to all. I'll link this script. This makes everything way faster because then you're not duplicating your group to each layer, to each document separately. It's just you load the script and it runs. And then you hit enter on that box, and now the basic coloring is on all of them. Usually I'll go back to the curves layer on each document and just kind of fix the black point. So don't really have to change the PSD coloring very much because everything is really basic adjustments onto a neutral, minor adjustments onto a neutral base because of that curves level. Okay, so the video crapped out that I recorded before. I think I accidentally deleted it, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you the rest of the steps on a 4-set as well as cutting apart a 4-set. So like I slid one of the 4-piece sets into Photoshop. You can see that it kind of like has multiple clips in it. So I'm going to cut it in between sets, like in between the different gifs in the set. Convert those to smart objects first. Sharpen. Sharpen again. This one. And this is going to be 2 gifs, so we'll just do that quick. Sharpen. Sharpen. On a 4-piece, I color on the document that the video was in, because it just makes it easier. You cut a few steps that way. They all look pretty okay already. So the curves layer, just gonna add brightness. Yeah, I think he's a little too yellow, so I'm just gonna cut down the yellows and add vibrance. More saturation, and these are a little too bright. Yeah, I think that's good. On a 4-piece set, I'll typically crop on here. So I made an action, it's the same Command Alt C, Control Alt C, canvas size thing, putting the values in. Hit Shift, hold get group 1, which is the coloring, and the top layer. Just gonna add a frame here, pull them back in. See on this one how it has that? I always go into the smart object and just do everything just in case I want to change the cropping. Hold down those, hit select, modify feather so that it blurs out the edges. 5 pixels should be, yeah, I'll do it again. That should be good. Convert this to a smart object, which I forgot to do first. Then I'm going to blur it, Gaussian, hit OK. And there's going to be a filter mask now of where only where you selected blurs that area. Close this, hit yes, and now it's on the document you want to. And when you slide it around, anything that like was blurred is blurred still. Next one, duplicate. Gotta do that again on this one. Get rid of Tiny's hand. Edit. Shift hold. Put this to smart object. Select, modify, feather. Well, blur, Gaussian, close, yes. This way, like, if you want to stabilize it a little bit, you're not going to have problems with the blur. Yeah. So it keeps the blur, and the blurred areas are moving around the GIF, because they're stable in the video, but you don't have to worry about those. So this is basically the same point that I was at for the 9-piece before the video crapped out. But if I was still on the 9-piece, what I would have had to do to get to this point is go to my GIF actions that I've made and use a convert for smart sharpening action, which basically just converts it back to one group with a video timeline rather than frame animation. I'm not sharing my sharpening action, but if you're gonna sharpen or blur or soften your GIFs anyway, even if you're using topaz, like anything like that, you'd be doing that now. This is my fake topaz action that I love. And then at this point, I just make batch, clips the frame animation, and then time, watermark, and export the GIFs, and they're done.